First things first, I'm gonna give full disclosure here. I initially intended to make this video to complain about Evolve and its practices. Now, I'm going to only slightly go at it, somewhat, depending on your point of view, maybe. That's what these videos are for, though. It's allowing me to get my thoughts out there without too much of a hassle for editing and such. It's what I can do. So Evolve came out recently, and fairly recently, only a week so far, and I am not one of the people who's purchased it, but I have been doing my research and seeing into things before making this video, and I can certainly say I don't quite understand what they're going for here. So, with Evolve, they don't give the game any time to rest on its laurels, to just breathe and be out there in the community. We've had a few alphas and a few betas, in which case they were meant to test bugs and such, though, truth be told, it more felt like tweaking than it actually felt like testing. In many cases, alphas are meant to be something that's completely behind closed doors, or a small selection of people, and it's usually a very early version, but it wasn't early, at least not to the extent you would think for an alpha. Recently, Blizzard did the same thing with Heroes of the Storm, doing a technical alpha, in which case they were simply renaming it something else. It was a beta. There's no other reason behind it. It had a lot of things ready to go, and in many cases, it was a beta in every sense of the word. It's just they needed to be different, I suppose. But Evolve had the same similar thing. I'm not going to call it an issue. This is more a matter of personal preference and a matter of note. They called it the Big Alpha, which was interesting, considering the fact that alphas should be small so that you can test the basic game before moving into beta and inviting many more people, and then eventually going to stress tests. They did do a stress test in the beta, and I did participate in it, as you were aware of my video that I posted of quite a little while ago at this point. But now that Evolve is out, I just want to touch on the subject of its marketing. Now, this is something the community has greatly backlashed against, and of course there are people who are going to defend it outright, based on their own opinions, or because it's the Left 4 Dead developers. They've made something gold once, how can they ever screw up at this point? Evolve has a very weird DLC problem because it's advertising post-launch DLC immediately. Now, the reasoning behind it, at least as far as I can tell from their point of view, might be that they want to keep the game going. They want it to last a lot longer than the average game would. Especially one that's not a part of the main series games. It's not a Halo game, it's not Call of Duty, it's not Battlefield. Those games last usually till the end of their cycle, if not longer. There are still many people playing games that are past in those franchises because they consider it good, or they just don't feel the need to move on at that point. Looking at Evolve, however, it's advertising them in so many weird ways. Evolve is offering many different versions, including monster version, hunter versions, and in general just so many different versions of which to buy. I feel you'd need a research article on which version to buy that's optimal for your playstyle or what you want. The good news is day one DLC, if you buy a standard copy, is all cosmetic. You can earn everything that is gameplay related in Evolve without paying extra money. The problem I see here is for when you want to extend your gameplay further. Now, post-game DLC in most cases would be fine. However, in Evolve they're offering season passes that don't get you everything. In season passes are usually, okay, if you buy this, you will get this set DLC that we will release at a slightly cheaper price than if you bought them by themselves. Sounds like a deal. You give them money early, of course, and expect the DLC, which pre-ordering can be shady, of course. You please take all precautions before doing something like this. And you would get the DLC, which is fine. That's perfectly acceptable. to most people. But you don't get everything with Evolve, as I mentioned. You only get hunters, the ones that they'll release. You will not get monsters. In fact, you will have to pay separately for monsters. I believe the pricing was about $15 per monster, and it's, I would say, about $20 for the season pass. You're looking about let me get my math straight. You're looking about $50, probably plus tax, if tax is applicable, about $55. That's almost the cost of the game by itself. And let's look at the amounts here. Let's look at things like where you're going to be purchasing the game, and you get for $60 a few monsters and the hunters. You also get the game, which includes all of the modes and the maps. Okay. Now, if you look at the DLC, which is, say, $10 to $5 cheaper, depending, if you bought everything, you wouldn't be getting nearly as much for your money. In fact, it's almost not worth it. For $115, pardon me, my math is atrocious. This is why this is why I was an English major. Almost. I was almost an English major. Topic now. It's just not applicable. It's just weird to look at it like this. And I don't want to call it a bad practice because it's completely optional. You don't have to buy the DLC. They're not forcing you to. They're not cutting off access to your game if you choose not to purchase the DLC. You just don't get access to the new content, the new hunters. It does look like they will be providing maps and game modes for free, so in theory, the game will continue to grow if you don't give more money. It's a weird situation with Evolve, and I don't believe it deserves as much backlash as it's getting for its policy. The DLC thing, it is honestly, in my opinion, a bad thing that they're advertising DLC so early, considering the shady practices of DLC. It was bound to happen that the backlash would be there, considering that people have been ripped on DLC many times before. It's different from an expansion, and in general, it can lead to problems. It's such a shady thing, and from day one too. Like I said earlier, it gives no time for the game to just be out there. They don't know if their bugs are worth if there are many bugs. They've had the beta and the alpha, but that's been very restrictive. They don't know how good or bad their game would hold out when it goes public, considering the fact that they can't control how many people are going to buy the game. You need to give at least, I'd say, a month, maybe two, to completely check your game and make sure it's good before I think development on DLC could happen. And I understand that there's always a dedicated team to figuring this out, but I believe that it's almost too early to be deciding to sell DLC. And this is, keep in mind, my honest opinion and not yours. You may share mine, and of course people are bound to argue, people are bound to be different. In my opinion, their DLC should have waited a bit longer. I get that they want to establish a base and they want to keep the game fresh and alive because they know that games like this that aren't part of the main series games don't tend to last nearly as long, even if their multiplayer is good. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this little discussion. A quick update before I go. Weather has been pretty bad lately. It's been almost impossible to record with outages, as well as just wind banging on windows. So that is one of the big reasons why updates have been scarce as of late. I do want to ask a question. I posted this on Twitter, but if you would like to consider having a solo series or 2 series at a time, I realize that I've been back and forth on this, and in my opinion, I want to leave it up to what people might want to see. I've shown the 2 games that will happen next, whether it be The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap, which, let's face it, would be far shorter than Eternal Sonata. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And I've been Avier of Chaotic Reunion, and I will see you all in the next one.